everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. And you can find me at Justin Bizzarro on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find the podcast at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Thank you, everyone who's supporting the summit. That's June 3rd and 4th in Milledgeville, Georgia. You can still get your free tickets. The summit is the Food and Beverage Entrepreneur Summit. Again, it's in Milledgeville, Georgia, June 3rd and 4th. Tickets are free on Eventbrite. So we have a couple great speakers, educational speakers, motivational speakers, as well as a bunch of great and cool collaboration activities. So that being said, again, if we do not meet in person, we will be doing the show live on Facebook and YouTube. So anyone who has a ticket or is registered for the free tickets will be given a pass to watch it live if we don't do the event in person. So thank you, everyone, for registering again. And today we have with us Lauren Storeby of Snack Attack from Fort Collin, Colorado. How are you doing today, Lauren?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, tough times right now.
Considering the craziness that we are living right now.
Yeah, that is true. So just so everyone knows, I want to let everyone know before we dive in, Lauren was on episode 119. So if you guys want to go back and listen to our first episode, it's episode 119. A lot has obviously changed in the meantime. So Lauren, let's dive in and give us a quick background. I know everyone can go back and listen to episode 119, but let's give a quick update on how you got to where you are, and then we'll sort of dive into the hardships and the things that are going on right now.
Sure, yeah. So long story short, I grew up in the food industry. My parents had a restaurant when I was 7 years old, and, through high school and college, that's how I supported myself, serving, bartending, cocktail, waitressing, did everything but management or owning. And shortly after having our son, just about 4 years ago, we decided to jump ship in California and basically Googled a place in Colorado and had a couple friends recommend Fort Collin, and we packed up our house and we moved here. And that was just about 3 years ago in January, and opened up Snack Attack. Snack Attack Specialty Sandwiches and Brews. So we're a sandwich bar, and we are about to hit our 3-year anniversary in June. And, man, it's been a wild ride.
So let's really dive into a little bit of, well, one, we've talked about you're in a college town before. Mm-hmm. And if I remember correctly, your location used to be a different restaurant. I was actually talking to this about Deborah before we started recording, and I couldn't remember what it was before.
Yeah, it was Red Robin Burger Works.
Yeah.
So it was their,
it
was their quick service concept that did not last very long.
So, and I want to keep going, but describe how your sandwiches and your concepts different than your normal, say, sandwich shops, such as, Jimmy John's or Firehouse Subs, because I really like the concept and its differentiation.
Yeah, so there's actually quite a few things that set us apart from any other sandwich shop. So we actually consider ourselves a sandwich bar, and we serve craft brews, so local craft beer, all sourced in Colorado. We did have a Wyoming beer for a little while. We no longer offer that one, but everything is sourced within 65 miles of Fort Collin. And we basically pride ourselves on quality ingredients and freshly preparing our ingredients. So we use boar's head meats and cheeses. They're freshly sliced every day. We freshly prepare all of our veggies. Not all of them, but about 80% of them. So like our lettuce and our tomatoes and our onions and cucumbers and you know, all those kinds of ingredients. And we have a grill. So everything is freshly grilled. There's no like conveyor belt or heating system. We literally will put, you know, a fresh grilled chicken breast on the grill. Everything is made to order. And the portions are a little bit bigger. So you're going to get, you know, a nice big baguette. You're going to get a 3/4 sliced wheat berry bread. We do amazing salads as well. So we're really known for our salads and just basically being that place to come in that is very community based. So we're kind of like known as the Cheers in town where, you know, people come in, we have tons of regulars. If you come in on your first time, you're going to leave knowing someone new. And really just, you know, trying to keep everything in the community, sourcing local products, featuring local products and offering healthier items. So, for instance, like we have an all natural soda that's out of Denver. We offer a CBD sparkling beverage. We do kombucha, yerba mate, and, like freshly sliced apples for kids and things along those lines.
So, I mean, up until the recent, what we'll call pandemic, I mean, your business was doing well and buzzing, I assume, because you're growing. I mean, the things that you're offering have grown quite a bit since we talked last. You know, the new sodas, the CBD, maybe it was already there, but we didn't talk about it. But it seems like things were going well. You've been open 3 years, and there's been some growth, and people become more loyal. We talked a little bit about students coming there for the semester and then leaving, or a year, however you look at it. But I mean, I have to imagine that people are starting to gain loyalty.
Yeah, that's huge for us is our regular customer base. We have people that are coming in once a week. We have people coming in every single day. We've got people ordering from us every single day. You know, always talking about community. We do tons of community events, but even just people that are coming in for our food, it feels good. And in this recent past week or so, we've been doing okay because of our amazing support system and people choosing to spend their money with us. And, it's, you know, what we offer in our shop is our lifestyle and how we want to live and offering higher quality ingredients. And instead of everything being all beer related, we've got, you know, other non-alcoholic options. And there's a big trend in sobriety right now. So offering other options, we're going to be bringing in a non-alcoholic beer that actually tastes really good. Once all this craziness goes away, hopefully in the next month or two, you know, bringing in other options like that. But yeah, absolutely. I think that's what's so hard about this situation right now is that, you know, as a restaurant, your first year totally sucks. Second year, you start making traction, but you still have setbacks. And, you know, on our way to year 3 hitting in June, we were doing, things were great. Things were moving along, and we actually launched a couple new programs, and we just put in 8 new tap handles to offer more beers on draft. And then, you know, we had been watching very closely, but every single day there has been kind of a twist and turn with it. And, knowing kind of to expect the worst, but just not knowing when that was going to happen. And then, of course, today with the announcement from Governor Polis that restaurants are only to be doing takeout and delivery for the next 30 days. And even with President Trump announcing, you know, no social gatherings with 10 people or more. So, you know, we saw this all coming. But I think that's the hardest part of it is that, you know, as a new restaurant, you're building and you're working your freaking butt off. And then this comes out of nowhere, right? Which is absolutely out of our control. There's nothing we can do about it. And we know tons of other people are hurting as well and going through it. So, it's just a crazy time. It really is. It's like uncharted waters. And I think just not knowing what the future is going to bring and how long this is going to last, I think that's what's the most unsettling about it.
And I agree with that. I mean, I have 60% of our business, what Deborah and I do and Food Service Partners, is healthcare meals and food for hospitals and long-term care homes. So we're somewhat, should I say, cushioned from what's going on, because the meals are starting to go up and we're starting to prepare and extra meals and temporary hospitals and all of that. But on the flip side, with all the closings and the quarantine actions and starting to happen, we're like, we got to get special paperwork to have our employees even go to work, and then you have doctors and nurses who are still working. And you also have people closing bridges. And I mean, in New York and the Bay Area, where we're talking about getting people, we produce food and have to send it to 22 hospitals throughout Northern California. So you're talking about special permits to go places. And it's the craziest thing. I mean, I never really thought anything could become this, but when it's coming to a restaurant or a business, like, you're basically telling them to not do business the way that they can. So your livelihood's at stake, obviously. The other part that's a little bit crazy to me is we're slowing down the movement of money almost to a standstill, which is just crazy scary to me, because once you stop it, it's very hard to get it moving again, because people fall into habits very easily. And if they're not used to spending it and they don't have confidence to spend it, getting that started again is a big deal. And a lot of things can suffer negatively because of it, such as restaurants like you guys are doing. So, I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, because I don't know. I'm not in the business that you're in. I mean, I've got to imagine one of the things that has happened is Colorado State University has closed probably, or gone to online classes, and that means that there's no students around.
Yeah, so they did announce last week, so spring break is actually this week, and we, last week when we were monitoring all this, I was being very positive and I was being very hopeful. Going into this week, we actually slowed down a little bit because, actually not because of the students being gone, but because of families being gone and families traveling. Kind of like what we talked about in our first episode, we actually don't get a huge draw of students, but we actually bring in more of the faculty and teachers and professors. Our catering orders have obviously suffered hugely because that's a big part of our business, specifically linked with CSU, but we don't get a ton of the students. So I was thinking, okay, you know what? Let's see what happens this week, because we have a tendency to slow down. That's what's happened the last 2 years. But maybe now that people aren't traveling, maybe, families, we're going to get the families to come in. And then it's like, okay, I mean, the weekend was pretty decent. Yesterday it slowed down a little bit. It wasn't terrible. We've definitely had worse days. And then today was actually okay. I think people are just a little more freaked out they're just freaked out in general. So a lot of families are just kind of hunkering down right now. But now CSU has announced, they announced last week, okay, classes are moving to online after spring break. And now it's getting pushed out for the rest of the year, or for the rest of the semester, I would say. And they may not even have a commencement ceremony at this point. So, it's hard for me to sit here and kind of complain about our situation, because I know everybody is being affected one way or the other. And just over the last 4 or 5 days, we have had so much support from our community, because we do so much community involvement, that we've had so many people coming in and, purchasing gift cards and, doing online orders and takeout orders and all the call aheads. And they just, it feels good to know that what you're doing in the community is affecting people and that they're returning the favor, because they know we really need it right now.
And I want to touch on that because, we talk a lot on the podcast about building relationships, like long-term relationships. Like, you're more than a business that serves food if you're in the food and beverage space, or especially as a restaurant. And the importance of building relationships is not only to make money and profit in the good times or to grow your business. There's an other side of it, which is exactly what you're talking about, which is the stabilizing of your business when things go bad. People know you. People know that you're suffering, and they know you on a personal level, and these people are your friends and not only your loyal customers, but you've built a relationship with them. And so that kind of thing that you just mentioned doesn't have to be unique. And in the businesses that are going to suffer more are the ones that haven't invested in building those relationships, that haven't invested in their communities, because you are part of those communities. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. As an entrepreneur, you're investing in your employees, you're investing in your community, you're more than just serving food. You're building relationships and helping people and providing solutions to them in many different ways, and opportunities for them to meet up and hang out and build relationships and build memories. So, I like what you said right there, because I think it's spot on. It's unfortunate, do not get me wrong, but I want to take it as something that this is not something that you have to do only when times are good. Yes, do you want to invest in it when times are good? But when things get rough, those are things you can rely on for your future.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I mean, it like brings me to tears. We had some customers today. They came in and I hadn't seen them in a while, and they came in and they had some sandwiches and they're like, we want to get a gift card too. And they bought $100 gift card, and it was like, oh my, it's like, you didn't have to do that. They're like, no, we love you. They're literally like, we love you. And I didn't even know their name. So I'm like, okay, well now I need to know your name. You look familiar. You've been in a couple times. It's been a while. But, they didn't have to do that. I mean, everybody's going to be strapped for cash right now. Everybody is suffering one way or the other. And the fact that they chose to spend, $135 with us today, I teared up, and it was like all of our hard work and all of our involvement, which is something that we like to do anyways. And we don't always get recognition for it. And we don't always see that immediate impact. It's starting to come out now. And I keep telling, my phone has been going off all freaking day. And it's like, what can we do to help? What we can do to help? And it's like, honestly, just share that we're open. Order a sandwich while we're open. Come in and order a drink to go. I don't really care. But like, if you could just come in, show your face. I mean, that's everything too, is that we have taken a huge step in sanitation process. Like, I'm just carrying around a sanitizer rag with me everywhere I go, wiping down the door handles just so people feel comfortable coming in if they do choose to come in, just to kind of take a break from the madness that's going on with the grocery stores and, other businesses kind of going through turmoil, and just getting away from the hysteria for a moment. Like, you step through our doors and it's calm and it's welcoming and it's super duper clean right now, but making people feel comfortable. And I was even like, our regulars that were coming in and having a beer, I'm like, okay, you guys got to sit 6 feet away from each other. And they thought I was joking. I'm like, no, seriously, like, if you're going to be in here, we got to follow these rules. We want this to be a safe place for everybody, but we also want you to come in and enjoy yourself. So they were kind of making fun of me, but I was like, nope, got to move down a couple more seats. So,
totally.
Yeah.
One of the things, though, that you said is the hope, right? By you pushing forward and you doing what you need to do, you're creating hope for these people. And in return, they're giving you hope also, and that's a currency that's so valuable, right? There's the gratitude there. That's the most valuable currency there is. And so I think that as entrepreneurs, and we've started talking about this a lot, Deborah and I, and we've done a post about it, like, we're going to push on with the podcast. It's mayhem in the food world right now, trying to move food from one place to another. And now we have food being rejected because of possible contamination coming into the facilities, and we can't have contamination food in the facilities, contaminating the employees who produce the food for the hospitals, and so on and so forth. So there's this crazy thing going on that's just time sucking our lives.
Right.
But, going on with the podcast, continuing the life that we can to give hope is important. And you guys are doing the same thing in your business. And I think that everyone's going through this, but how do we prepare everyone to move forward? We've still got, when this is done, we are still going to have to move forward as humanity. We're still going to have to rebuild an economy. We're still going to have to start getting the money moving again. We're still going to have to go
Right.
out and sort of, for lack of a better term, repair the damage that was done financially and economically because of this
Right.
situation. So if we're not in hope and we're not constantly preparing that to stop your business and close the doors,
Hmm.
that's not doing anyone any good. We would help. We need to move
Right.
the money. We need to put our hands in our pocket, and we know things aren't bad, but okay, we can't get food at the grocery store, or we can't do that. Okay, where's a business that we can spend money? Where's an entrepreneur out there that's in the restaurant that has some employees? Okay, you're spending money on that restaurant. That restaurant can keep more employees.
Hmm.
Even if it's takeout, then those employees are also in return putting money back into the economy. So we've
Right.
still got to do what we can to keep it from stopping. And you want to save during times like this because you're like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. But if we
Hmm.
all just spend a little, and I'm not saying don't save, but still put the money out there, still invest in your businesses by going and eating the food there like you guys, and
Hmm.
keep the money moving. Keep
Right.
the money moving. It's not going to do anyone any good if you guys ever had to shut your doors. Then you're not employing anyone. Then you're not
Right.
buying food from another person, and they're losing that ability to employ other people. So,
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
what we got to keep in mind as we're going through this. And we can follow all the safety precautions and limit the amount of
Hmm.
people in our space. But we've got to get creative as consumers and as
Hmm.
entrepreneurs on how we can keep the money moving. Like that is part of what we do as business owners is move money and circulate money and create jobs. So,
Right.
we got to continue to do that. And the people that support us doing it, give all of us as entrepreneurs, especially in the food and beverage space, hope right now. Because,
Yeah. It's I was talking to one of my girlfriends earlier. She owns 3 restaurants here in town, and I just was checking in on her and seeing how she was doing. And they decided they actually did close today. They possibly might reopen. But she employs 90 people between all 3 restaurants. And for me, like, I know how difficult that was for her, because for me, we have a staff of 12. And that's been the hardest part of this is, okay, I know that Shawn and I are going to be okay. Like, we're going to get through this because we, we just know we're going to get through this. We're not giving up. But how do we maintain our staff so that we don't let them fail, right? Like, we don't want to fail them. We don't want to let them go. I mean, the harsh reality of it is, yeah, shifts are getting cut. Luckily, one of our employees, this is her last week anyways. Another 2 of them are actually out of town for spring break. But like, our shift leads and managers, we're just going to have to reduce hours. But there's been a lot over the last week. I'm really involved with local female business owners up here, and there's been a lot of like social shaming going on with establishments and restaurants staying open. Comments made by people that you should shut your doors. You are providing an unsafe environment. And, it's hard to see those comments because I guarantee you these people do not have any skin in the game, and they are probably getting a paycheck still. And they don't understand that if you shut your doors, you are not only shutting down your income, but you are shutting down the income that you're using to pay your staff. And if we had an exorbitant amount of money, we would absolutely shut our doors and continue to pay our employees, because that would be the best thing to do. But not everybody is in that situation. So, luckily there's like New Belgium and Odell Brewing, Weld Works, Red Truck. Those are really big operations, and they did decide to shut down because of their occupancy. And they are, I know Odell and New Belgium are paying their employees. But the reality is, a lot of us smaller operations, we just simply cannot afford to do that. And that's one thing we've been really, really weary about, is how are we wording our social media posts and how are we showing up and making these announcements? Because I have just seen some major negativity, and it's like, this is just not the time. This is not the time to be shaming people for trying to keep their doors open. Even though, of course, following like the CDC's recommendations and implementing sanitation procedures and, of course, following the rules, because it is a serious situation. And all day long, people asking, how are we doing? How are we doing? And I go, you know what, honestly, at this point, I just want let's just bite it in the butt. This is what we got to do. It is what it is. I want to get through this. I want to get through this as soon as possible so that we can reopen and get back to some normalcy and get back to our daily lives and all these amazing things that were happening in our lives and in our businesses. And we're coming up, once we hit June, July, August, September, those are our busiest months. So if we can weather this storm for the next how many weeks? I mean, honestly, I'm planning 8 weeks at this point. If we can just get back into June and again, like jumpstart this economy back again. And I absolutely agree with what you're saying as far as, we got to keep it. Of course, people are the economy is obviously slowing. It's slowing very quickly. And, yes, you need to save your money, just like how we are. I mean, we have to be very careful with how we're spending our money right now, but we can't come to a complete halt. And I know that this is going to kill a lot of businesses. This is going to be very trying on a lot of businesses. The strong will survive, the ones that get creative with what they're doing. We're just gonna have to think outside the box a lot and try things we never tried. And, I've made a point to, you just got to be engaging. You got to be engaging on social media. You need to stay relevant, whether you're doing gift cards, gift card donations, you're doing giveaways, you're doing, we're probably going to be sponsoring a local hospital, like that kind of stuff, just to stay relevant during this time. Because if you start to fade, it's going to be really hard to get back from this.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I want to say is, actually, I had someone cancel a podcast today because of the shaming thing. They were very upset and they weren't in the right mindset to do the podcast. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I wasn't even going to talk about it, but I think it is relevant now that I've now had about 4 or 5 people mention it to me, that I work with. And then the lady who canceled on me today. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thing because what these people don't realize, or what people don't realize, I shouldn't say these people, but what people don't realize is that ultimately their businesses are supported by the movement of money through your business as well. Ultimately, the money has to trickle back so people have money to buy any services or good. And if it's a business-to-business model, there's got to be the support for those businesses somewhere. Yeah. And so... Yeah. This is a time for tolerance and understanding and educating yourself, and supporting other human beings, not going after people. And so it's an amazing thing. And, I'm going to just say this, here, let's look at the shaming the other way. I have employees, that are traveling, 300 of them across the country, 390 almost, that are working against all of it. They're like, it's a dangerous situation. They don't want to be in environments where they could get sick, but they've got to go to work. Why? Because there's going to be this influx of people potentially into the hospitals. You got long-term care homes, you got short-term care homes, you have rehab centers. All of these people need food. We can't just stop feeding them, and we can't certainly just feed them anything because they're on dietary restrictions or health things or need surgeries or whatever else. So here's the other side of this is, what about these people who are trying to provide a service similar to your employees that are doing it no matter what? 1, because they need the money, but 2, because they need to continue to move forward and they need to build hope. These people are inspirational, because you don't have to go to work doesn't mean that there aren't other things needed in the community. The communities need food. They need restaurants. They need stability. There needs to be money moving. And so there has to be an understanding there. I understand that you don't want to go to work because you work in an office building with 1,000 people. That was your choice in life, and you get to do that. My choice in life was not that. My choice was to go into food and into this business. And now I'm putting employees' lives at risk every day to try to produce food. But they see the bigger cause here. We're supporting a system. And it's the same in the restaurants in your neighborhoods. These people are supporting your neighborhoods. These people are circulating money in your businesses also. These employees are spending money in other businesses. And eventually the money's going to hit you. So when we start to see that,
one way or the other, we're all connected. And that, I think that's a frustrating part of this is people do not understand if you're not in this position, you do not understand how just insane this really is and how impactful it really is. And it's people's livelihood on the line. And, when people are doing this public social shaming, it is very hurtful because, your business is a reflection of you. And so of course you're going to take it really personally. We personally have not had it happen to us yet. But I have had multiple friends where I've seen it happen, and people are already freaking out. It's like, we don't need this intolerance on top of it, because it just makes people spiral out of control even more.
Yeah, and I'm going to put it to people very bluntly, because I work with farms all the way to the end consumers in my business model. We're very vertically integrated. If we stop buying the stuff from the farms stop planting, the farms stop producing the food, the farms don't have anything to harvest, they just plow it under, we will run into a food shortage. So while everyone's out there, restaurants and everything, we still need to pull the food through the food chain, because if we don't, it has a domino effect where we're not going to have the food we need. There isn't people producing it. There isn't people growing it. It doesn't enter our food chain. It doesn't just magically appear at Costco and the grocery store. Like, that doesn't happen. It's got to be grown for months. This isn't something, and we slow that down, and these farmers don't have the money to replant. We have food shortages. So I'm always like, you're shaming what? You're about to cause a major food shortage. We continue to slow down the economy. So let's not even, you don't care about the circulation of money. What about food on your table?
Yeah.
And that's great. You want to live off the canned goods and frozen meals forever. But at some point down the road, there is going to be that, because it doesn't happen now. It's a delayed reaction, because farmers grow for months. They plant for months down the road. And if no one's buying their stuff, guess what they do? What you guys are doing with your money, they plant less. They go into a reserve mode. So when we're not pulling the food through, we've got a problem, and we're going to create a big problem, because whether people know this or not either, food is, we all eat 3-4 times a day. We buy groceries. It's the largest industry we have by far. In terms of employing people, in terms of putting food on the table. Look at all the restaurants in your neighborhoods. Look at all the farmers that are out there. Look at all the trucks moving food. All of this is part of our food chain, and we start hating restaurants or hating on people for this stuff. You're creating something and creating an hysteria that has a lot more impact than just your opinion. You know, so am I up on my soapbox? Hell yeah, I'm up on my soapbox, because I don't think, I've heard it from people and they're like, why are you going to do that? And how are you going to do this? And I'm like, listen, what I do and what these restaurants and everyone do around you and how they handle this is going to determine the food in this country for months. And so you want to see food. Here's the thing. The economy slows down, food shortage, because we stop buying it and pulling it through the system. Now it's a common economic problem, supply and demand. There's less supply. Demand is at a normal rate. Price goes up, more demand. Price goes even higher. Now we're at the same level, same salaries. If you're at home right now, you're making the same amount of money even though you're not working. Your business has slowed down because you're not at work. And because of the economy, now there's no room to grow to keep up with it, and food prices have gone up. So now there's less food, there's less, your money's worth less when it comes to buying that food, and you're going to have more trouble putting food on your table, paying your mortgage because of it, because you're just trying to feed everyone. So this is the thing we're talking about. This is more than just that restaurant's bad because they're going to spread the thing. Well, it has a lot more impact than just what's going on from a health standpoint. There's also the long-term health of our country. There's also the long-term health of our food chain. There's also the long-term health of people that, okay, now I don't have a job. Now I get the virus, the coronavirus, and I can't afford to pay for the treatment because I don't have a job anymore, because I worked at a restaurant that got hated on and closed its doors. So like, let's really take a step back and think about this. And I don't mean to be so wound up. This is actually about Lauren, and I'm taking the show here, but
No, these are all very valid points, though. I mean, I think people forget the amount of time and work that it takes for food to get to a grocery store or to a restaurant. And, I don't know about grocery stores, but for a restaurant, we work on very, very low margins. So it's like we don't have a ton of profit floating around anyways. And, people they just think that things just show up out of nowhere, and they don't really realize the process that's involved with it and the trickle down effect, from your suppliers. And then even just the aftermath of, having to let go of employees and what that does for them and all of the things that they have to pay for.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that I love by surrounding myself around entrepreneurs, and by entrepreneurs, I mean the people that are really creative and are differentiating their environments and creating solutions and jobs and finding solutions and helping people like you're doing, is that we look at it from always a side of hope. Like, okay, This is my situation. Guess what? This is what it is, but I've got to deal with this. This is just something like any other entrepreneurial venture I've been on. Okay, I've had a hiccup. Now I've got to pivot.
Yeah.
And we don't do that as a society. This is a hiccup, and yes, do we need to take proper precautions, but we also need to pivot. And pivoting isn't throwing hate out there. That's not going to work. That doesn't do anyone any good. And we're all in this together, and we have to deal with it together. And yes, you want to stop the movement of the coronavirus. I agree. But you can't stop it if you're ultimately creating something where people don't have the ability or the funds or the insurance to go do something about it. If they get it, you're going to have a lot more people die. And so that's the thing right there. And being on the health side of the food and healthcare, that's what we're talking about. You want to talk about what everyone's worried about. Yes, do we have to deal with the coronavirus? But what happens if we slow down food and we slow down businesses and people close their doors? And now all of a sudden we have this influx of people who can't pay for their insurance and pay for their things, or there's a backup. And hospitals have to treat everyone, but don't get me wrong. But imagine now someone's been treated and they come out with $75,000 worth of medical stuff that they can't afford because they lost their insurance, because they lost their job. So, these companies, we're entrepreneurs, we're all trying to figure out what your big businesses have the pockets to figure out, which is how do we keep people paid and how do we keep insurance? But we have to do that on a way lower scale, so we're smaller and we're more nimble, but at the same time, these type of bumps in the road are much larger for us. And so,
it's like, it is super crazy just to see how everybody's going to navigate this. It's, I definitely, a month ago, I did not see this coming so quickly. It's just every day it's like hour by hour, things have just progressed really quickly. At this point, I am ready just to get through it. And I'm really looking forward to, June. We've had to cancel all of our events, and that's like a super bummer. I'm also pregnant. So, we were gearing up for certain things, and then come June to have a baby. But now it's like, okay, June, it kind of sucks. Like I'm super excited to give birth, but it's also like, now I'm super excited to go back to business.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting. And I think it'll be super interesting to see how this all plays out with everybody and who survives and who doesn't. And kind of going back to, absolutely being an entrepreneur, you have to move and shake with what you're dealt with. And, how do you deal with situations like this, and how do you come out stronger, and how do you use your time too? That's something that I talked about a couple days ago, was how are we going to use our time? A lot of us are going to be slower. So what do we do with our time? Our time is extremely valuable. For us, I know I'm going to start revamping our website. That's something I had on my list. I've got some marketing things that I want to design. I want to revamp our catering program a little bit. And so kind of just looking at, the opportunity out of this instead of dwelling so much on the negative side of it is, okay, well, now I've got time, which is worth a lot of money too, even though I don't have the money coming in. My time is very valuable. Being able to, do some remodeling, the stuff that we were hoping to get done over Christmas that we didn't get done. But just doing some like small improvements and then, just coming up with creative ways of how to gain sales and, really just stay afloat and keep trucking along while we can. I mean, that's literally, at this point, that's like literally all we can do.
Well, and that's one of the things, right? Like looking for opportunity. If you're a restaurant or a business and you haven't done delivery before, it's time to figure out how to do the delivery game. If you're in a different food or beverage and you're in retail, well, it's time to figure out how to build an online store or find a company that's online that represents you, because that's where we're going right now. Yeah. And so it's time to start figuring out. You may have not had to do it before, but this is what we're dealing with now. So how do you, how do you grow in it, and how do you stabilize yourself? So that's the thing, is it's not going to be as good as it was right now, but we can certainly start figuring out things to do and improve. Like you said, that once this is done, you can come out of it like you're shot out of a cannon versus just trying to limp your way along like you started all over again. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I have this quote that I actually have it on a Post-it on my computer that I keep looking at. And it says, we don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we push through the challenges. And something that I always hold on to, it's like a motto of mine, is that, these hard times, when it's really uncomfortable and it's hard and it's like super crappy this is probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest things that I know I've ever been through, professionally. This is like where the magic happens. This is where you learn to dig deep and you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about your business. You learn about your values. And, as a business, have you even established your values as a business? But I think this is, again, another opportunity to sit down and go, okay, what do we actually stand for? Like, what is the basis of our business? And like, for me, ours is, quality, community, just a welcoming environment. And like, these are the things that we are literally, like, those values are what you're holding on to. Those are like the strings that you're holding on to. And finding that magic, man, like really digging deep, and it forces you to get creative, and it forces you to branch out. Luckily we already do a lot of online ordering, and we do deliveries. We have a delivery service already. But leaning into that, leaning into it, and even finding ways around that to grow. Earlier I mentioned, so we just got 8 new tap handles in, which that's going to be obviously put on pause, because we're not going to have people in drinking. But luckily a majority of our sales is food. So we do about 75% food and 25% beer. So we're not going to lose a ton of business there, which is reassuring. But we've also established a grab and go program where we are, preparing food. We've got a wrap, a sandwich, like a little half sandwich, and a salad that we're distributing. We're wholesaling to accounts in northern Colorado. So that's something that has actually just launched in the last, I think we're hitting week 3 starting tomorrow. And, we're talking about things like things are so great. Yeah. We're like, we've just put in this tab system and we've got a new program. We're generating sales. And luckily, some of the accounts, they're taking a break right now, but I just got, Dad's Bog Coffee. They're a new account starting tomorrow. So I've got 4 new stores that I'm going to be delivering to tomorrow. And I told them, I said, we are absolutely here to provide food for you. And, I've been talking back and forth with the manager, and he's like, nope, it's still a go, because people are going to need this food more than ever right now. Right. Even as a takeout, as a coffee establishment, they're like, no, we don't have any fresh items right now. which is why I approached them in the beginning was, I went in and I'm like, gosh, you don't have, for me, like as a customer, I don't want a muffin. I want a fresh wrap or a salad, and, so luckily we've got 4 accounts jumping on board tomorrow, but it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. One door opens and another one closes. And I know that a lot of these doors are going to open back up, hopefully, when the time comes, when everything starts to settle down. But, focusing on this grab and go program, I think is going to be something that we're probably going to open up to the public as well and see if there's, people want to take orders that way. Because essentially it's the same thing as going to a grocery store, right? With way less people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're going to the grocery store and you're waiting in line and you're spending who knows how long, and you are surrounded by way more people than if you're going to come into our establishment and grab some tamper sealed salads that are good for 4 days, grabbing yourself some sandwiches. So I think that's something that we're going to lean into. And then obviously like our catering has slowed down drastically, but there are still some accounts that are ordering. So leaning into that as well. And like I said, we're located right underneath a big apartment building that it houses students. It's not student housing, but it's called student geared. A lot of them have already left, but we're going to kind of lean into doing deliveries with them. Because according to Governor Polis, they are still allowing room service deliveries. So we're going to try that avenue to see if we can get more customers just in our immediate area. But yeah, we're just going to think outside the box. We're going to kind of look at what some of these other bigger cities are doing, like in Seattle. And I'm just going to be doing research. I'll tell you that. I will be following this very closely and doing things that are outside of our norm, but that's just what we got to do right now. We just got to get creative and we got to step outside of our comfort zone. I think that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah, and the other thing that you just reminded me of that I think is important, and you talked about it a little bit earlier, and I want to do full circle to what you just talked about, but you sort of reminded me of it indirectly. Is that restaurants, we tend to be cleaner anyway. I mean, the ones that are well run have food safety codes and have cleanup codes, and you clean tables every time someone leaves and a new person comes. Like, it's a little bit interesting that that's the one receiving all of it. I guarantee people walking through a mall, it's less sanitary than a restaurant, and so this is the thing. I mean, they're cleaning the utensils, you're washing down your surfaces, you're making sure there's not cross-contamination between products and allergens and so on and so forth. And so it's a little bit like, to say that, to go against something that's generally cleaner anyway, I wouldn't say everyone, so I'm not going to stereotype that everyone does this, but it's one of those things that here you're figuring out ways around it. You seal a salad, that thing's sealed, right? And it's good for 4 days. And it's, it's pretty much made in a very clean and sanitary environment because you're washing everything and cleaning it. And it's actually probably more safe than in your own home. There's everything there. And how often do you wash it? And how well do you clean your utensils? And how often do you go to the bathroom and wash your hands? Or, this whole thing, and brush your teeth, and what's the dog and the cat and the, and so on and so forth. So, it's a little, can it travel from person to person? But generally, the surfaces and everything that are used in restaurants and food establishments, if they're doing things properly, like you guys are, you're cleaning everything, regularly. And so, we are probably a little neurotic about it, but I feel comfortable, literally having a sanitizer rag with me at all times, wiping down the POS system after every single time someone signs that, we're wiping it down, wiping down the pens that people are signing receipts with. Kind of going back to what you were talking about with like just general sanitation and health codes. I mean, we're required to wear gloves, for our kitchen to wear gloves. That when you're cooking at home, you are not wearing gloves. And you're probably touching your face and you're touching the dirty counter and all that kind of stuff. I mean, our hands are just like falling apart from how dry they are because we're just washing our hands, using the sanitizer rag,
I've no joke. I've probably washed my hands, 50 to 100 times a day.
Yeah. Well,
But it is, it is what it is. This is what we got to do. And it makes me feel comfortable.
and you do it in food anyway. I mean, you talk about the
Yeah.
gloves, but I mean, we joke around about this a little bit because everyone's
Hmm.
like, "Oh, don't shake hands and don't do this." We've been bow bumping since the day food safety was a thing forever. No one ever shakes
Totally.
hand. We wear
Yeah.
beard guards and hairnets
Yeah.
and or
Yeah.
anything safe. Like we're safe established, so we're not touching anyone or anything or spreading it in the place. Like you're touching
Right.
elbows if you want to say hello to someone because you don't want to contaminate food or cross contaminate something or get your gloves dirty and it end up on someone's food. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing. So that being said, I love what you're doing in the catering. I think that that's really awesome, and I think it's exactly where you should be growing your business, is helping other businesses by offering them fresh sandwiches and salads, because
Yeah.
there's definitely more of that needed.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't cost effective for them to do it themselves, but it is cost effective for them to offer it and to make more
Mm-hmm.
money in their establishments and offer their customers. And obviously, it's a way for you to continue to vertically integrate your own business by going to business to business. So,
Yep. And that's exactly why we launched it. So we had actually been wanting to do this for well over a year, and it took some time for us to get to that point where we got the right licensing and we got the process set up and we got the right packaging and getting approval from the state and labeling requirements and doing R&D on the food, making sure it stays fresh for a certain amount of time, doing the delivery process, all that kind of stuff. And everything has been running really, really well because that was one thing that we talked about, is like, we don't want to rush this. We want it to work. We want it to be successful, making sure the pricing was right. I mean, that's another part of it too, is, when I talk to accounts, I tell them, I go, this is your 20% markup. This is what we work on, is a 20% markup. That's hopefully where our profit margin is. But you don't have to do the work. I'm like, a salad always tastes way better when somebody else makes it.
yeah.
Like, salad preparation is it. I love to make salads at home, but I still will go, I'm like, I'm going to Snack Attack and I'm getting a salad because it's just way easier, and having someone else make it for me, it just looks beautiful, so I still have a lot of hope in this program. I know it's probably just going to slow down for a little bit, but I think it's something, it's not going to be a huge money making program for us, but part of the reason why we started it was to just, gain brand awareness, advertising, marketing, get fresh food to people. That there's no other grab and go company up in Fort Collins doing what we're doing. So I think it'll be really good for us. It's already been well received, and I know it will continue to grow as we move through this, but it's something I've been really excited about. And it is a bummer, that this little hiccup has slowed us down a little bit, but it's not something that I know it's not going to go away. So just keeping it moving, staying relevant on it, and, just keep supplying. That's the other thing too, is I told all of our accounts, I said, we're still moving. We're still doing this. If you have an order, we are happy to fill it. We understand if you're going to be taking a break from it, just because there's so many unknowns with business levels right now. But we have such low minimums on them anyways, that it's like, if you have an order, we will fulfill it, because like you were saying, we got to keep the money moving. We need to keep customers coming back. If they expect something to be there, and if that's why they're going to your establishment, we need to make sure we're providing that for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're keeping people employed, and whether it's one sandwich or two sandwiches, people are, the stuff's got to move, and people got to, have the work and businesses got to have the work to give them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's definitely a big part of it too, is, figuring out, because we have adjusted hours right now, still bringing our front of the house person in a little bit early, because they've got to do this wholesale stuff first, and then they jump into the regular work. But yeah, just again, there's just so much flexibility going on right now. And I feel so lucky that we have such a great staff that is so understanding and so appreciative. And, they're in it with they're with us too. I mean, I can see the concern in their eyes, and trying to look at schedules and where do we cut and where do we don't, and trying to, literally really just trying to spread it out amongst everybody so that everybody is getting something out of it, and holding on to them as long as we can, really.
Well, and one of the cool things I just heard about, and someone was asking me what I thought about it, and I love this idea, is that they're like, oh, we have to cut back staff.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the employees came to and said, what if we don't cut back staff? What if we all figure out how to lower our hours where we're all still
Mm-hmm.
working 4 hours or 5 hours a day instead of 8, but everyone still has a job and is making money that way?
Mm-hmm.
No one's missing out. And they sort of came up with a solution on their own as employees, which
Mm-hmm.
was really like, and the fact that the owner and the entrepreneur that I know in his restaurant is like, or restaurants is like, okay, this is a great idea. Let's do this in all the restaurants. And he's letting the employees take ownership of it and go through it together. And it's crazy because the other thing that occurred as we're talking about it is that, there's the military, right? And you bond during times being in the military, going through the same thing. But you really bond when you're at war and there's hardship, because there's fear and there's bad things that could happen. And you get through it together and you survive together. That's what's happening right now. And if we look at it, this is a chance for us to bond as humanity. This is a chance for us to bond in our businesses. This is a chance for us to help our employees bond, to help our communities bond. There's a hardship there. There's no doubt about it. It's there. And you can argue, I'm arguing taking advantage of it. But what I'm saying is this is there no matter what. So if we look at it positively and make sure there's a positive outcome with what we're dealing with, like this person I'm talking about was doing, that's valuable. And you can bond your employees. And believe me, now all of a sudden you're doing what's right by them. They're going to do what's right by you and be loyal, even more loyal to you. And guess what? They're going to talk about what you did, which when this is all over, that's going to help you get more customers, because people are like, I can't believe you guys, what you did for Joe, the cook. And, that was amazing. I really want to give my business to you, because that's believing in the right thing, and doing the right thing. So, there's things like that we don't realize, that our actions right now really matter. And I love that we're having this podcast right now, because I haven't actually been able to dive into this in the other podcasts. So you've been very vulnerable, Lauren. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, this is real though. I mean, this is, even my husband, he was like, are you still going to do it? And I said, yeah, because this is like real life. I mean, this is a really, really hard time, and everybody is feeling this. And I know I'm not the only one, and it's helping me get through this, knowing that we're not the only ones, not that I'm happy that other people are suffering as well, but there's just a little more calmness around that, knowing that it's not just targeted at us, and that we are literally all in this together. And kind of going back to what you were just talking about, of just empowering your employees. I think that brings so much value to your management style and your brand and your company in general, because then they're going to hold on, they're going to hold on with you, and they're going to try and find those solutions. Because, we're always the first one to admit it. We're like, we don't always know the answer. We don't always have the right outcome, and we're constantly learning. And I think as an entrepreneur, that's something that's a part of, that's an asset that you have, is that you learn how to learn, right? You are constantly growing, and you're constantly adjusting, and you're trying new things, and, you're moving and shaking, and you're like, hey, well, this didn't work this time, but you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to pivot over here, and I'm going to give this a try. You just don't give up. I mean, that's what it comes down to, digging deep and growing and learning from your mistakes, and, just trying to make the best decisions that you can with what you're dealing with, because, we haven't always made the best decision. We've definitely made the wrong decision and mistakes in the past. And all of this is so unpredictable for so many people right now that, we're learning as we're going too, and how we deal with this, and how we deal with the public, and how do we deal with our staff, and just really talking through things before we jump to conclusions right now, and weighing out all of our variables, and weighing everything out. But yeah, I mean, I decided to do this because it's actually very helpful for me to talk about it, especially with somebody that is in the industry and understands the effect that it has. I feel really lucky. I have a great group of girlfriends that we're all small business owners. I'm the only one with a restaurant, and they all have other amazing businesses, and they're all dealing with it. They're all struggling with their businesses too. We've got a chiropractor. We've got a med spa owner. I've got a social media influencer. I have a friend, she owns a Pure Bar. So, fitness studios are closing. So she's dealing with that. People are trying to cancel their memberships. And I have a friend who she's like a health and wellness coach, and she puts on one of the biggest fitness events here in Fort Collin in northern Colorado. And they've got events coming up, and it's like, they've got to cancel their events. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. So, I think being vulnerable, and I think being authentic to what's going on, it's very real. And, there's certain times when you got to sugarcoat stuff, but with this right now, there's no sugarcoating. It absolutely sucks.
Yeah, and I think honesty
totally
is the
just
best
sucks.
thing. Yeah, I agree. There's not a time to sugarcoat it. It sucks, right. And we need to be honest about what's going on, and we need to move forward. And I think,
right,
everyone's going through it. We just need to provide hope, and we need to make sure money's still moving, for the gym owners, for your friends, right? Because, those are possibly our employees that are going to that gym, gym or whatever. So it's more, when we start getting upset at people, there is more there. And, I'm really glad we did the podcast also, because Deborah and I have been talking a lot about this. Okay. She's, we always talk, we're in business together, and we're that couple that stays up at night staring at the ceiling, talking about everything, particularly business, and trying to figure out everything. But when we were talking about the podcast, she's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I've been doing what I do normally, and it's hard, and I work hard, and I spend a lot of hours working, but now's the time to step it up. If I have to do 3 podcasts a day, I'll do 3 podcasts a day for anyone who's willing to be on. If you need to talk or you want to give hope, or I need to give people the opportunity to talk, I'm going to do it. So anyone out there, you need hope, you want to be on the podcast, you want to do whatever, you're in the food and beverage entrepreneur space or owner space or whatever it is, I'm giving an outlet there. So that's one. Number 2 is this is an opportunity for me to, in our business, in our employees that aren't directly related to the production of food, okay, it's time to revamp our website. It's time to look at the way we're going at social media. It's time to look at the way all of our customers are now. Our clients is what I like to call them, because their customers are also our customers, ultimately. Our clients are going through something too. So now it's time to take a step back. Things have slowed down. Let's fix any little problem that may be there that we haven't had the time to sort of adjust to do it right. Let's take a look back. Maybe there's something that's wrong with a piece of equipment that we haven't been able to fully fix because it's been in full production. So how do we fix that? Maybe we're having packaging issues with a certain retail product or whatever it is. It's the time to sort of, this is the time to step up and be ready for when everything we come out of this, because we're going to need to be a well-oiled machine when the economy starts back up, because it's going to be hard. And if you don't have everything figured out, you're not going to be able to shoot out of a cannon, like we talked about before. And so now's the time to work harder. Now's the time not to sit back and I have days off and, okay, there's nothing I can do. This is not my business. No, this is the free time you always wish you had, but you were too busy operating your business.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, we were talking about it. I'm like, well, if we actually have to fully shut down, I'm like, what are we going to do with ourselves? Like, we love to work. We love to be moving. We love to be doing things. And I think that's almost a little bit more scary than anything else, is like, what do we, once everything is put into place and everything is updated, it's like, okay, well, now what?
Yeah.
I'm going to spend time with my family, which is amazing. But there's only so much you can do with a 4-year-old, I mean, there's only so much we went and bought him a bike today. We got him a big boy bike. We're teaching him how to ride a bike. But these are the things that, again, like, it's very valuable and we're really excited about it. But, and I hope we don't get to that point where we fully have to close. But we already have like our to-do list going. We're looking at the opportunity that this is providing because that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's like making lemonade out of lemons and finding the silver lining in all of this and not letting it weigh you down. I think that's the biggest thing that I've been focusing on is just staying calm. We had a customer in today, a guest, and he's actually he's kind of part of our family. And after Governor Polis's announcement, I thought he was going to break down in tears. And I kept telling him, like, we're going to be okay. Like, everything's going to be okay. I'm not too concerned. Like, I am, but I'm not going to let this take over, because once I start to spiral, once Mama Bear starts to spiral, like, shit's hitting the fan. Like, we don't want that to happen. So I told him, it's okay. Like, we're going to be fine. We've got ideas. We've got things that are going to keep us busy. We're still going to be open. Like, we're still going to be generating business. Yes, we're going to lose a lot of revenue, but I still feel very grateful that we have a concept, like, we are a quick service restaurant, so we can absolutely handle this. But seeing the worry in other people's eyes I think that's hard too. But yeah, we just, all of us, regardless of what type of business you have, just look for those opportunities to fill your time with things that are on the bottom of your to-do list and start checking it off. And, other things are going to pop up. So just get it done. Don't procrastinate. Don't let it weigh you down. I think that's my best advice right now is, yeah, it sucks. And, I'm wearing my Stay Positive shirt and that's where I'm going. But I also had a conversation with someone about it's okay to feel like this is crappy, and it's okay to feel sad, and it's okay to feel frustrated, and it's okay to feel that, to sit there and acknowledge it and feel those feelings, because you need to do that. You can't just bottle it up.
Absolutely.
You have to go through that little moment and go through that feeling to get out of it, and then to keep catapulting yourself forward. Because it's like, if you don't and you keep holding yourself back, it's just going to keep pushing you farther back. So that's one thing I've come to realize this week is, like, it's okay to cry. Like, I've had a couple little moments where I've cried just because it's scary. But then, you know what? I don't know if I told you this, I teach yoga too. So I do a lot of breath work. So I just sit there, I close my eyes and I take deep breaths, and then I just come back to reality. And then I go, okay, I feel so much better. I got that out of my system. I'm ready to move on with my day. I'm ready to be positive again. And then, it's where we do not have a lot of control, but we actually have a lot of control over our actions and how we move through this. So knowing that we can control ourselves and our attitudes and our actions, I think will speak very loudly. And letting go of, I talk about this in yoga, letting go of the attachments and the expectations of where we want things to be and we can't. So, letting go of all that and letting go of the negativity and letting go of things that are literally not serving you. I think that's just going to be something that is very important during this time.
Well, absolutely. And I think you get control of yourself and get control of the things that are around you. This is the time, to look at your business and look at your personal life. What's a break-even analysis on your life? What is my bare minimum that I can get by on just in case I have to? Okay.
Right.
What's my business break-even analysis? Let me look at that. Where do I absolutely need to be to break even where I'm not losing money? Okay. Now let me look at this. Where are my margins? Where's my prices? Have I increased my prices recently? It may not be the time to do it, but it may be time to start looking at what that looks like. And if you need to do it in the future, this is time to get intimate with your business on a deeper level, and intimate in your lifestyle and with your family on that level too, because this is a chance to do those things, and you get to spend more time with your family. And it's interesting you mentioned the bike, because I was at the bike store yesterday also, because we've decided to fix all the bikes since none of us are really going anywhere. And, you know, my stepdaughters are basically home now because of not being in school. And like, so we need activities to do. Yeah. But it's keeping yourself busy. It's spending the time together. It's taking a step back. Like, it's time to take a step back, get your head up, look around and see what's going on. Take the time to learn the financial situation of your business. Take the time to know your products, what sells well, what doesn't sell well. Maybe I need to cut a couple items off my menu that aren't doing so well so I don't waste the inventory. Maybe every once in a while there's more loss to them. You know, that's what we've got to look at. We've got to start picking our head up, taking a deep breath, taking a step back, and looking at it. And the same with our families, the same with our financial situations. And that's hard, right? But, you know, it's going to make us better leaders in our community. It's going to make us better leaders for our business, and it's going to make us better leaders with our family.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's as difficult as this is right now, because it is out of our control. Some amazing things. Like, I do see a lot of beauty coming out of this, for those that are willing to put in the work, right? Because that's what you got to do, is you have to put in the work. Nothing comes easy in entrepreneurship. But diving into the details and, like you said, getting intimate with your business. And, you know, this is actually in I think more, not so much in your professional life, but in your personal life, this is really allowing people to pause and look at the important things. And, you know, like we were planning on getting him a bike for his birthday, but you know what, we're like, you know what, let's just do it now. Like, we need it now. Let's just do it now. And spending more time with your family that you wouldn't have that ability to do. So I think the silver lining in this is that there's going to be a lot of beautiful grace coming out of a lot of people and a lot of people's businesses that I think if this weren't to happen, you would never get to that point. Right? Like, it's just allowing a lot of pause. It's allowing you to step back. It's allowing you to analyze. It's allowing you to look at what's really important, like talking about our values and what you stand for, and really establishing who you are as a person and as your business. I think it's going to be, I think there's going to be a lot of amazing, just transformations going on.
Absolutely. And, and I think, you know, the takeaways from this is extremely important. Is now's the time to grow. You know, you talked about growth, and this is just another growing opportunity. And so we get to grow. We get to spend more time with our family. We get to grow with our family. We get to grow in our businesses. We get to grow as human beings. And that's what it is. And is it hard? Of course, it's called growing pains for a reason. You know, and this is what happens. And unless we're forced to, we often avoid growth. And so this is very
uncomfortable for people.
Absolutely.
It's very uncomfortable. People don't like stepping outside of their comfort zone. They like what is easy. And I know for me and my husband, we don't take the easy route. We like the challenge. So this is something that, you know, I look at it like, you know what, this is going to be another real road bump. You know, our first year of business was really tough, but this is just we've already been through something like that. So, you know, I think this will just make us stronger for the future. I hope we will never, ever, ever have to go through this again. But if we do, or something similar to it, we're going to have a better game plan. We're going to know exactly how to tread through the waters, and we're going to know how to navigate it and come out stronger.
And that's absolutely it. You want to succeed as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to go after the hard things. You're going to have to take the harder paths no one else is willing to, because that's where the advantage is. That's where the profit is. That's where the money's made. You know, everyone's like, oh, you're padded during this thing. Let me tell you what padding means during good years. You know, it means keeping track of dozens of different diets. It means low margins because you have to deal with healthcare and insurance companies. You know, that's what it means. I may have an advantage now, and you could I would disagree with you, honestly. I'd prefer the good times where I have all the retail business, the other 40%, because they're more profitable. And there's not as much pressure and negotiations all the time and all of that stuff over everything. But here's the thing, is that we went into healthcare because it was the hardest place to go, because of tracking all the diets, because of the communications, because of the insurance companies, because of the hardships, because of trying to make sure we get in all the food every day. And we do, we do hundreds of thousands of meals a day across the country. And it's hard. You're trucking it from central locations, and we haven't missed a delivery in 22 years. That's every day across how many hospitals in New York City, even with flooding and hurricanes and earthquakes in California, we still managed to figure it all out.
Yeah.
But that's the hardest path. So it's the same for you. You've started looking at harder paths, which is why you are where you are. And the other thing I want to quick loop back around on is the employee part. Like in these employees being loyal to you, why it's so important to work hard and take the hard road is because if they're loyal to you and loyal to your business, you owe it to them as an entrepreneur. At least I feel this way, that I need to grow the business. I need to create opportunities for them to grow. It's not only me who needs to grow. I need to make sure I create an environment for them to thrive. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's what makes a company successful. I mean, and we've always said that for our employees is, this is a performance-based job. Like if you do well, you're going to grow with us. If you don't put in the work, then it's not going to work out. This is a partnership. We always talk about that too, is that with our employees and even with our other companies that we work with, breweries and food distributors and just community partners, it's a partnership. It has to work both ways. It's like a relationship. It's give and take, and there's got to be compromise and sacrifice on both ends. And if you're not creating an environment for your employees to grow, you're most likely not going to grow.
No, absolutely.
Yourself.
Well, and I want anyone who's not an entrepreneur that just listens in and is an employee, this is why it's so important to work hard all the time, and work smart, because when a company has to make hard decisions, if you're not working hard and you're not contributing to the business and you're not growing and helping the business grow, you can't help the company get through a situation like this. So you're not valuable. And that's hard for people to hear, but that's the truth. Unless you're gaining, you're proving there's value and that you can add value. In the good times, great. Growing business, it's easy. It's easier. People have money. They're spending more money. But if you prove it during those times, you're more likely to be able to handle it when it really matters, like times like now. And growth is needed amongst hardship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you right now, the staff members that pull through, that have sacrificed for us, that have shown up, and they continue to show up every single day, and they work their butts off. They're the ones that are getting the shifts. The ones that show up with a bad attitude, that don't really care, that don't have the passion, that don't stand for the same standards and values that we do. Unfortunately, your shifts are going to get cut. I mean, that's just how it is. We want people that are passionate, that people that care. I mean, this is our livelihood. This is how we make money. And if you're not on board, and if you don't have that pride in yourself, it's harder for us to find those shifts for you. Absolutely. And it's like, you want to be able to employ everybody, but that's what it comes down to. Some people perform better than others, and that's just a fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Lauren, I wanted to thank you for still coming on the podcast amongst all of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I want to do is, I think what you're doing and what you guys are doing is needed right now. And so that's a huge compliment from me. I don't know if it came out that way, but I think everyone needs it. And so I'm going to just keep in touch with you, and maybe we could get back on and record in a week or two and just continue what we're talking about, because I want the message to be out there for food and beverage entrepreneurs, and me doing it by myself doesn't get very far. So, it's not as easy when you have someone else who's out there that's doing it, who's actually in that space or in the restaurant space. So I will reach out, and I'd love to get a part 3 done here, especially as this thing continues, because I want to continue to breathe hope into communities and breathe hope into entrepreneurs, so they know there's someone out there
Sure.
just like them, are going through it too, that's trying to see positivity amongst all of it, even though it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, the relatability part of this is so big. And the hardest part of not being able to physically support, I mean, like that's the hardest part, is not being able to hug my friends or, give someone a handshake. I mean, that's the weird part of this too, is that we're all going through this, and emotionally, we want to physically support each other, but it's like, we can't even do that. So if we can help spread a message, and if we can help create some relatability and some authenticity and vulnerability, then yeah, I would absolutely be happy to come back on.
Awesome. So I will be in touch. And thank you again for stepping up and coming on in a hard situation. I think it was important. And thank you everyone for still listening in. All the food and beverage entrepreneurs that are reaching out. Yes, I will put you on the podcast. Yes, we will breathe hope in the communities and through your messages and stuff like that. And let's just get out there and conquer this thing the best that we can.
Let's get through it. I know we can. We just got to get through it day by day.
Absolutely. One day at a time is what they say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening in, and have a great week and a great day. Make the best of it.